So, will the Fulton County DA's office be dismissed from prosecuting? How will that affect Trump's election interference case? The decision lies in the hands of Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, who is also the judge presiding over the whole case. Let's bring back in our legal contributors. Joseph, you know, Judge McAfee said he would disqualify Fani Willis from this case if there is a conflict of interest or an appearance of conflict of interest. There are some who argue that's already been established.
You know, I don't know. I mean, this is definitely a complete self-imposed disaster on behalf of DA Willis. This was a terrible lapse in judgment. And I think she'll have her hands full while she's being investigated by the Georgia legislature. But as far as whether or not she should be pulled from the case, frankly, I kind of wish she would self-recuse herself and kind of put this nonsense aside. I don't think she will. I think she's too proud. I don't know. I think it could go either way in terms of whether the judge says she's gone so far that she has such a conflict she cannot continue supervising the case. I don't see how Nathan Wade stays on. But as far as whether Fani Willis stays on, I don't know. I think it can go 50-50.
Jesse, this feels like the mother of all self-induced errors. I mean, what a screw up in judgment.
And I have to tell you, I don't think that she helped herself yesterday on the stand. I mean, call me crazy, but I think the judge can come back and say—
She was very argumentative.
There are serious issues of her credibility here. There are serious issues of bad judgment. But I agree with Joseph. I think the better question to ask is, should she step down? You remember, this is a DA who, before she indicted Donald Trump, was on the nightly news 40 times during the investigation, previewing what was to come. She posted an inappropriate message about Lindsey Graham during the investigation on her campaign website. She already had to be recused from another case about one of the electors in this case because she had actually been fundraising for his opponent. So Fani Willis has been infecting this case with conflicts from the very beginning. This feels like the cherry on top. Is there a possibility the judge will say that she has to be disqualified? Maybe, but I also don't believe we've quite risen to that level of a clear-cut, definable conflict.
Joseph, her dad was on the stand today. He seems like a really, really nice man. He was testifying that she moved out of the house and into this condo because she was getting death threats and harassment, a condo that lawyers for the defendants have tried to portray as some sort of love shack where she and Wade were secretly living together. They didn't seem, however, to prove that, and the burden is on them to prove this kind of thing.
I think they're chasing a red herring here. I think this salacious stuff, it might grab headlines, but I don't think it's necessary. I think they're actually hurting themselves. I think that the points should have been, and they should focus on, why did you hire Mr. Wade? Was he qualified to handle a complex RICO case? These are very complicated cases. Did you get $600,000 worth of services from him? At the time your romantic relationship began, why did he continue serving? Those are, I think, are the key questions. Going down these rabbit holes about timelines and where they lived and stuff, I kind of feel like I think it's just too much, and they really should kind of stay away from that sort of thing.
They did have the former governor of Georgia on the stand today who said he was offered the job first. I mean, the fact of the matter is Nathan Wade got the job after at least one, I think maybe two people turned her down. Yeah,
I remember on the stand yesterday, she said, Nathan Wade was not my first choice. At the time, I didn't know if that was romantic interest or having him as the prosecutor. But I will tell you, what's really interesting. It all comes down to when this relationship started, right? And you have at least one witness who said, without a shadow of a doubt, this relationship started in 2019.
Yeah, but that's a witness with credibility issues.
Absolutely. But you also remember that there was another witness who came on today who there was an issue about whether or not they could even testify because of attorney-client issues. I think the judge has enough here to say, I think there's credibility problems with Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. And maybe even if he were to accept that this personal or romantic relationship started, perhaps it's too much of a mental leap to say, well, she was paid the money, he was paid the money, she benefited from it. Does that mean there's a conflict in terms of Donald Trump's prosecution? It may be too much of a mental jump. I just think it's too much issues of a bad judgment here that she may not need to stay on the case.
Joseph, I just need to ask you a question, and this isn't legal analysis. You're a former prosecutor yourself. How on earth, I just keep thinking, how is she going to, if she stays on this case, go in front of that same judge against those same lawyers who've been grilling her about when did you start to have sex with him? Where did you go on the tattoo parlor? Who paid for the tattoo in Belize? It just feels like how on earth can she go back in there and actually prosecute a serious case?
I mean, she wouldn't personally prosecute, right? It would be her office that would do it. But yeah, look, the taint is there. And this was already a highly complicated case with extreme political volatility, right? I mean, it involves Donald Trump, of course. So why you would want to continue having this sideshow, right? Which, again, people aren't going to forget about, even if the judge, regardless of how the
everybody's
judge rules.
captivated by it.
Of course. So again, the smart thing would be for her and Mr. Wade to both say, you know what, we're going to recuse ourselves, let the case stand on its merits, let it move forward under someone else's handling. That's what they should do. I don't think that they will do that. So I guess the question again is, will the court do it for them?
In which case they don't get a say in who prosecutes the case.
I think her whole office would likely be disqualified.
Right.
So then they'd have to have some kind of a special prosecutor who works, I guess, for the state, and then have to handle it that way, which of course it won't derail the case entirely, but it will delay it seriously.
And by the way, affecting potential jurors who are watching this unfold too and having not faith in the prosecution.
All right, Jesse Weber, Joseph Moreno, great to have you both on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.